So the game plan for this episode quickly went out the door as I was initially sitting down to record said episode. Allow me to explain. We left the last episode wondering what exactly we were going to do with this team. We have some underperforming players that could potentially be moved. There are some blockbuster deals that could be done for the likes of Nico Hischier, Cale Makar, and a few others. But as I sat here and looked at the contract situation, trying to figure out exactly who could potentially be moved, it's changed some things in the outlook of what we could do with this team as you get a look here. Now, Darcy Kuemper's deal is up. That we were aware of. And odds are we're going to let him walk off into the sunset and Wallstead will take over. And the reason why is because, well, Darcy Kuemper's looking for $7.5 million, and there's no way we're paying a goaltender $7.5 million. So Darcy Kuemper's gone no matter what. Now, if we were in a bad situation, the move here is simple. Get rid of Darcy Kuemper. But we're not in a bad situation. We're second in the division, and it helps to have both Kuemper and Wallstead here just in case. So if we were in a worse spot, it makes sense, like I said, to get rid of Kuemper, get some value back. But that really isn't the situation that we currently find ourselves in. Top of that situation, there are other things to make note of. Now, defensively, as much as I'd love to keep Mackenzie Weegar, who has been pretty solid this season, all things considered, he is looking for $3 million again next season. That simply can't happen because that money has to go to Lassie Thompson. So we know we're losing Mackenzie Weegar at the end of this season as well. Of course, it really makes no sense to get rid of Shea Theodore when he's only making $2 million more than Weegar, and of course, he's significantly better. So the defense situation, it's not too bad. The goaltending situation, it makes sense to keep it as is for where we are. But then you get to the forwards, and issue number one, aside from the fact that the Tkachuks are underperforming, is that Cody Glass does not want to re-sign at this stage. He's asking for $6 million next year. He's an RFA, but there is a very good chance that Cody Glass is one and done with this team no matter what. Which raises the question of, do we bank on him wanting to re-sign and, actually living up to his potential? Do we bank on getting an offer sheet back for him, which, $6 million is probably going to be $7 million on the open market. So you look at what the compensation is as it stands. We'd be looking at a first, second, and a third. Can we get back more than that for Cody Glass if we trade him? Of course we can. But we get rid of someone like Cody Glass, and while he's underperforming, you lose a player of that caliber, and it's tough, very, very tough, to replace it at least immediately. And obviously, again, it's just been the whole having to get rid of Lafreniere because of the rules of the series and having to fit underneath the cap. Our internal cap of $78.2 million. Oh man, that deal it's going to overshadow this series. You look at Logan Brown, RFA as well, wants the same amount of money. Again, you could argue getting rid of him, but honestly, he hasn't been that bad this season. But his value, is he worth it kind of as an elite third liner, or is it worth the cash out on him? With the way prospects develop, it's really tough to say. Josh Norris, we'll go to Tyson Jost here first. Having a really good season. Pay him $2.5 million to move up to the fourth, or from the fourth line to the third line next year. Could very well work. He's not a good fit for that third line, though. Then you have Josh Norris, thankfully not looking for that much money. We know Max Pacioretty. You can just tell I don't have a choice. Max Pacioretty's gone no matter what. So the big thing here is really what to do about Cody Glass. Because as much as I'd like to keep him and hope that situation changes, like I said, a first, second, and third for someone of that value, there's no way. Unless he asks for significantly more on the open market, we'd be getting hosed on that deal. So then it kind of poses it as, okay, we got to get rid of Cody Glass. And if we're getting rid of Cody Glass, do we just go ahead and make other moves now and hope that this team can survive and still be half decent? Or do we keep this team together and hope we can still make a run of it? Because you see the value that Darcy Kuemper has, significant. Mackenzie Weegar's worth at least a low-end second-round pick. And then forward-wise, as mentioned, I mean, yeah, the Tkachuks are struggling, but you look at Glass's value. You look at Logan Brown's value. Tyson Jost has been playing on our fourth line. Even Max Pacioretty could probably fetch us a third or a fourth round pick at this stage. And then you have someone like Alex Formenton, who's been garbage this year as well, and just isn't looking like he's going to make it, so we could cash out on him too. It's really left me in a stage, or in a situation here, where I don't exactly know what I want to do, as difficult as that is. So it really is right now, looking at this team and thinking, if I keep this team together, are we good to go? I can't really add to the team because we don't have enough cap space. If I add somebody to the roster, somebody has to go. We're listed as champions. We are on a slightly better point pace than Tampa, despite them having the division title lead at the moment. But again, if you look at our points percentage here, we are above Tampa. And a decent team, just under 60%. I genuinely don't know what to do. And it's because this team has underperformed this season in so many ways that I don't have the utmost confidence in thinking that if we keep it together, we can win the cup. Because I don't know if we can. Maybe this team turns out to be a completely different animal come playoff time. But it's tough to say for sure if that's going to happen. So that's really the call. Do I think this is a playoff team or not? And again, we look at who's available right now on the open market. I mean, the big players, of course, stand out, as we mentioned. By the way, Verana's making $12.5 million, and I have no idea why. His morale's down. He's a better overall than that, but he never had that good of a season. He's also had some injury trouble, clearly. So I don't know what the hell happened there with Washington, but if you're wondering if they end up if you've seen they have a weird roster, that's why, because they're paying him $12 million. But looking here, right, there are some prospects like Dragicevic on Winnipeg as well. There's Lindgren, decent options that we could pick up here. I mean, like I said, in terms of additions, what, am I going to move Formenton for Eller in a draft pick? I mean, I could. Even if we wanted to move Max Pacioretty off the roster. But again, Patches has been strong. It's such a tough choice. Renaud here on Pittsburgh. Philippe Renaud could be a decent little pickup as well. Former 8th overall pick. So there are prospects to go for, including Sloan. And there are some big moves to go for. Nelson and Deneau are not worth that price at all. But you have someone like Gallagher, who honestly isn't worth that price either. But like Pulock and Bailey and Eberle is rentals, but they're too damn expensive because we don't have money. It's a very tough spot to be in, and then anybody that we do bring in has to be a rental, if not a long-term option, which is where someone like Nico comes in, who could be the long-term replacement for Cody Glass. I genuinely do not know what to do here, and it's already deadline day. Again, a leap year, February 29th. We have to make this decision. As you see, again, Colorado with an absurd amount of players out there, but again, the money would be tough. You're talking about Thomas Chabot going for Cale Makar, which you could argue is worth it, and I would potentially agree. This sucks. We have $500K to spend right now with this roster as it is. I can just see that we're going to end up in a ton of trouble. This Cody Glass thing, we need to make a decision. And we either wait it out. The issue is if he wanted to re-sign, it would be fine. But Cody Glass doesn't want to re-sign. And the value that we'll lose if I don't move him right now is substantial. I feel as though I have to move him to New Jersey. I really don't see what other choice I have. It's another young center, not as young as Lafreniere or Glass himself, but it's another young center that could lead this team moving forward, especially if due to the value difference and me retaining salary, I can get Nico on reduced salary. I mean, there's really no reason at that stage not to do it. But as much as I don't want to get rid of Cody Glass, I really don't see what other choice I have here. He has to go. There's really no other move. That keeps us just under the cap. I gotta do it. I didn't imagine Lafreniere, that Lafreniere would turn into Glass and then Nico Hischier, but then when you have, Jesus, New Jersey sucks too. When you have rules to a series, they have 3 second-round picks next year, and people say I pick Ward. When you have rules to the series like I do, and yes, I know the hilarity of what I just did with the draft picks there, but when you have, series rules like I do in this one, you're only in control to a certain extent. And obviously the Melnick factor and having the internal cap has played a huge, huge role in what has happened in this series. So that second-round pick is going to be out of range because they don't want to retain, obviously. We'll try the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth next year just to see how close this is. That is still rejected. We'll take out the fourth. It looks like we're going to move Cody Glass for a reduced salary Nico Hischier. He'll be on 3.625 if we can get this to go through. And to be honest, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to just spend on this or reach a little bit if we can get this to go through. And then that way we don't have to worry about Nico's cap hit. So I'm going to have to reselect him here. Unfortunately, I wish they had somebody else in terms of prospects that'd be interested in picking up. But obviously, you can tell New Jersey is very much in fire sale mode right now. So, yeah, it's an interesting spot to be in, all things considered. Will this go through 1-for-1 is my question. No, it won't. I'm going to have to add to this deal, as shitty as that is. Again, we do have some decent options here. Mad Sjogard might end up being good enough to be our backup next year, but then Prosvetov is still just kind of sitting here. There's not a ton of value there for Sjogard, but I'm tempted to cash out on him, although he's done really well in Belleville, so maybe not. Defensively, makes no sense to get rid of Uyghur unless we're really selling on the team here, but someone like Peckham to push that over the edge isn't a bad way to go either. So let's tack on these extra picks. Will this go through? There you go. I didn't expect to do it. Cody Glass has been traded in less than half a season. Nico Hischier is the newest member of the Ottawa Senators at an 87 overall as a first-line forward. And that morale's down, too, so he's actually a little bit better than he appears. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with Balsers, and we will call Nico up to join the team. And that is the first move that's done. Again, I can't risk losing Cody Glass for so little. The good thing is Nico's a very good fit for this team. He's a very good fit for this team. So that is the first major move to make. Again, we still have cap space, and now, like I said, Nico is here on a dirt cheap contract for the next 4 years. And obviously that's kind of been key to building this team, is you look at how cheap some of these deals are, with the exception of like Brady Tkachuk. So it's an interesting move. I still think I want to shop Alex Formenton. I'm just not sold by him. We have played him up and down the lineup and just not seen the level of production that we've needed. Now the question is, what do we do? In terms of, what do we get for a return, right? As mentioned here, the future of this defense really is Brandstrom, ideally Chabot, Bernard Docker, and Lassie Thompson, which means Uyghur gets Thompson's money, and Bernard Docker gets Shea Theodore's money. It's pretty straightforward. So I really do like the core of this Ottawa defense being built in prospects already instead of getting Cale Makar. We kept a lot of Ottawa's built-in forward prospects on this team for a decent amount of time up until it was like, oh, cool, they're not developing, so we got to do something. You look at the forwards, we got to give Brady and Matthew the rest of the season. Taylor Hall as well. Colin White's under contract too. If this team fails to deliver, then yeah, major changes might be necessary. There might have to be a rebuild on the fly. Now, I am a little bit worried about Logan Brown, about Tyson Jost, about Josh Norris, and cashing in on their value, though. So if we trade Alex Formenton, it'll likely be to open up space for someone like Pilar to make it back up into the NHL lineup. He or Naslund. So the team would be Kachuk, Hall, White, Kachuk, Hall, White, Hischer, Brown, Norris, Jost, Pinto, Pacioretty, Batherson. Honestly, that's solid. And I mean, in terms of potentially getting rid of Brown and Jost, like you could argue, Stepan, Pilar, Naslund, we have some younger guys who could be given a chance here. It's just such a rough spot to be in. But like I said, I think I'm good with the idea of cashing in on Alex Formenton. I mean, I know he had 42 points last year, but a significant sophomore slump. And, unfortunately, at 24 years old, I don't know if I see him getting much better. He does have a year left, though. The only thing I'm worried about is, again, missing out on value. You know, what's going to happen? Oh, menu lag. What's going to happen if we keep Logan Brown right now? How much value are we missing out on? You know, Logan Brown right now could fetch us a low-end first. It's tough to say it doesn't. The reason why I think I don't want to trade Logan Brown, why I don't want to trade Tyson Jost, is we don't know who's going to be on this team next year. Because if this team crashes and burns and the performances just aren't there, there is a realistic argument that Kachuk, Hall, White should potentially go. So it's really not a fun spot to be in. I think I'm going to leave it at that one big move. And then with players being RFAs, of course, they still have trade value. So it's not that rough of a spot to be in. I think we're going to go with Batherson, Formenton, and Jost on this fourth line here. We'll play Batherson at center. Not that I want Jost to be on the fourth line, but do what you got to do. It's kind of a tough call here. And again, the big thing was, oh, hey, we had to fire our coach this season. That certainly didn't help. So what if we go with just something like this? Just throw that together for the moment. See how it does. Take it from there. I think that's the game plan. Let's see how it does. We will optimize this team for the playoffs, but for now, let's see what they can do. Are we making the right choice by keeping this team together beyond deadline day and not making further changes aside from already cutting ties with Cody Glass, who made it again quite obvious that he didn't want to be here. As much as that sucks, I don't know if I can blame him for not wanting to be here. His tenure has been a disaster, and if you look from a social media standpoint, fans weren't happy that he was here in the first place. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and keep Wallstead in for this game. Patches picks up a slight injury. Wallstead gets a 3-0 shutout, so cool. He will continue onward, and we are neck and neck with Tampa at this stage. Nashville's not a very good team. Peter Gradiev suffers a concussion. Eric Brandstrom suffers a concussion. He'll be out for the majority of the month. So we lose in a shootout again, but the point streak continues. St. Louis is next. We win that one. So Wallstead's very good at jumping back on track after a defeat. See what happens here against Winnipeg. We lose that one. At this point, Wallstead plays until we take on the New York Rangers after this game against New Jersey. The Rangers are up next. We beat the Devils, thank God, especially after that trade. And okay, so win-loss, but some overtime losses in there. It's not the worst. And if we look here, we've been running apparently Mark Borowiecki on that top unit, which is horrifying. Oh boy. What if we do this? Let's at least do that and get Bernard Docker and Borowiecki onto a lower line. Wallstead now with 33 games played. It's tough to argue that he should not be the starter come playoff time, as both DePita and Sjogard have been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic there for the Baby Sens, who I imagine are in a pretty good and comfortable playoff spot right now. as we get a big win there against Dallas. Still neck and neck with Tampa. Heading down to the back stretch here. 9 or 10 games left. Brandstrom will be back for this game against the Bruins, which we really could use him here from the looks of it. 1 point back of the Lightning. Interesting. Of course, we'll check to see how Nico ends up doing. Goaltending-wise, let's go ahead and make that switch and take Boro out for Eric Brandstrom, who is not a player that I'm excited about the fact that we lost for a couple of games. It's Boston next. Big 2-1 win. They have the goaltending the same here as we take on Pittsburgh. Solid team. Thomas Chabot will be out for the rest of the regular season as we end up beating Pittsburgh. So, man, the injuries right now. We lose Brandstrom, we lose Chabot. That's not necessarily ideal. Borowiecki and Theodore can at least work well together. So I guess that's promising. And Darcy Kemper gets a good little run here. Tapita and Sjogard will swap those two back. So let's see how we do. It's Buffalo, Tampa, and Washington for this current stretch. We beat the Sabres in overtime, and this game right here might as well be a playoff game. And we suffer a devastating loss that sees the Lightning clinch a playoff spot. Thank God that we beat Washington. We are still neck and neck with the Lightning, but that head-to-head loss really sucks. That loss really sucks. So, Wallstead, you are the guy for the moment until you lose 2 in a row. Vico's back in Belleville. We beat the Flyers. 3 games left. These are the final 3. We are 2 points clear, though, of Tampa. Season finale is against Tampa. We'll see how that plays out. We lose to Colorado. We're just 1 point clear now of the Lightning. Big game here against Buffalo, looking for win number 47. Christian Wolanin breaks his nose down in the AHL. Thomas Chabot will be back for the season finale, in which, if we win, we get the number 1 seed. If we lose, we take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, or at least the top seed in the division. If we lose, we get to play the Toronto Maple Leafs in that first game. So Darcy Kemper, ball is in your court. If we lose, I think it's likely by popular demand that Wallstead is the guy in goal, as Nico has had 12 points in 18 games, a significant improvement, although a similar shooting percentage compared to his time with New Jersey this season. So let's see how this one plays out. A crucial game that could really dictate how the rest of this goes. No real way to know. First period, scoreless. Second period, scoreless. Quick sim of the third period. We're going to overtime, which means the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the division because I think they have the ROW ahead of us. We're going to a shootout. We win. Brady Tkachuk gets us the extra point, but I am 99% sure that the Tampa Bay Lightning have us on tiebreaker now. And they do. And Colin White's going to be out potentially for the first 2 games. So going to overtime against Tampa absolutely cost us. We finish second in the division, and we take on Toronto in round 1. Interesting. In the Metro, it's Carolina, the Rangers, Jackets, Flyers, and Pens. In the Central, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Nashville. And in the Pacific, Anaheim, Edmonton, Arizona, San Jose, and the Vegas Golden Knights. As you take a look here, 7th best record in the league. In terms of goals for per game, we were mid-table. I think it was at a .284. Goals against average, we were one of the best teams at a .251, but outside the top 5. Power play. We had the 2nd worst power play in the league. And our penalty kill wasn't great either. We absolutely suck on special teams, and that is something that we're going to have to address. Speaking of things we have to address, Taylor Hall, not good enough. Not good enough. Brady Tkachuk, not good enough. Matthew Tkachuk, not good enough. Nico Hischier was okay once he got here. But he's not, we're not as optimistic as we were when we had Lafreniere, even though he sucked last year. Colin White, not good enough. Shane Pinto, Pacioretty, I'm not really happy with anybody's production here outside of Batherson and Jost, if I'm being completely honest with you. Defensively, happy with Brandstrom, okay with Theodore, Chabot, And Borowiecki played 19 games without getting a single point. Goaltending-wise, again, the argument's there. Do we go to Wallstead or do we give Darcy Kemper one shot? Mom's spaghetti. As we take a look here around the league, only 2 players with 90 points. I mean, scoring is just down in general, apparently. Connor McDavid was up there. 49 goals for Trevor Zegras was the way to go. Defensively, you had Fox completely outscore everybody with 38 goals as a defenseman because created players are broken within franchise. How many more shots did he take than the next guy? I mean, look at this. Where's the first non-created player that I've added in? Torrey Krug at 229. Yeah, they need to fix that. They need to fix that desperately. And then for goalies, the winningest was Tristan Jarry out in Vegas. Save percentage leader, Kochikov was pretty good. Luukkonen, or perhaps Ottinger, likely to win the Vezina. And the rookie race, Braden Yeager, likely to win it. So, not a bad situation to be in, but the future of this team, again, very much hinders upon our playoff success. Let me know what you think. I'm intrigued to find out the decision to cut ties with Cody Glass, get someone of equal value in Nico Hischier, not moving some of our other players, which are who very well could have been moved. Was that the best move to get rid of them, or do we make the right choice to hold on to them for now and save some really major decisions for this upcoming offseason? Let me know what you think. A lot to talk about coming out of this episode. Toronto's up next. We'll see how it goes.